Was a girl running in our group. She had a high-speed motor in a 40 Ford Coupe. She had a racing cam and a supercharged. Look at Buddy, hot rod and large. She's a hot rod. She's a hot rod.
But we're talking about the situation. And this is the 800-pound gorilla in the room. I can sit here and tell you what's going on in the car business all I want. But it doesn't tell you where we're at and what's going on and what's going to happen. Do I have a prediction on the chip shortage? I do. The chip shortage is going to last as long as they want it to. And that's exactly what's going to happen. They are getting so much money for these cars. In 2021, Chuck, dealers had their best money year ever. Not their best sales year, not the most sales, their best money. The average automotive dealer in the United States made $3 million in 2021.
Well, so you bring up an interesting point, though, is the idea that why would you want to fix a problem if it's making you a lot of money along the way?
Well, that's what I said. They're going to have this. We're going to have this chip shortage and this man-made shipping problems and different delivery problems, all man-made. We're going to have all that until they decide that they've hosed us enough, I guess. Well, I don't know.
But they always say that they make, isn't the claim, it used to be that they made more on the financing than selling the car? I don't know if that was true or not.
Well,
but
and they're financing heavier loads right now.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that you're making more money on the back end as well.
Absolutely. The F&I guy has got to be your hero in a dealership.
He's out.
Nobody's got $75,000 to plunk down for a pickup truck. They're going to finance it.
Right.
And they're going to pay $1,000 a month for 6 years. Come on, it's like buying a house.
Well, so why would they want to fix that?
Exactly, they're not going
to.
No, they're not going to, and you can count on it. It's just it's going to be what it is, and it's eventually going to get fixed. But it's not going to be when we say it's going to be, and it's not going to be when the car companies say. It's going to be when we're told. I'm tired of this. I really am. The car business is being run somewhere. There is somebody pulling some strings like a marionette, and there's people going, yes, 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 yes. We'll just keep charging the American people every nickel we can to get these cars on the road. Or the guys like myself, I own a shop. We are so busy because people cannot afford to go out. First of all, they don't want to go car shopping. They've read the horror stories, they've listened to this show, and they've heard them all. And they're horror stories. The used cars out there are deplorable. They're terrible. To get a certified used car anymore is almost impossible. Not a good one.
So let's stop and talk about that for a second, because I think that's another thing you're going to see is, and I've heard from a couple friends on Facebook about getting lemons, because now you've got demand for a vehicle. So let's say you talk a lot about, like, frame issues and things like that.
I just condemned one today.
So these guys are going to do whatever it takes to get you. You're going to pay some ridiculous price for this car. They're going to do whatever it takes to get you to buy that. If that means covering up any kind of issues they can.
Absolutely. I just towed a guy's pickup truck in yesterday. Today we got it. They pushed it in the shop, and they couldn't put it on the rack. So we had to push it back out and push it in the other door and put it over our pit so we could get underneath it. Ronnie got underneath it. It's a mess. The frame is destroyed. If I would have put it up on the rack, it might have broken in half.
Yeah.
That's how bad the frame was.
But again, rotted frame. How is this guy going to handle you telling him that?
He called the junkyard. I told him. He says, "Well, can you refer me to somebody that can fix it?" I said, "No.
No, there's no fixing that.
This is no fix.
Yeah,
this is
it's
not
like a broken back kind of thing.
This has got to be. This is done.
Yeah.
They call the junkyard, see what they'll give you for scrap, because that's all it's worth. But here's another guy. He's got to go buy a pickup truck because he's a business guy.
Right.
And he's got to have a pickup truck. I told him before you buy one, bring it to us and let us look at it. If you're looking at a used one, make sure we look at it that doesn't have the same problem that yours does. Because that's what's out there now.
Right.
On the side of the road, you got a lot of people that have bought junks, polished them up, made them run a little bit smoother, make them quiet, fix the exhaust, and out the door it goes. And they don't care if it stops at the first stop sign. They just want to see you be able to drive it away and collect their $3,000 more than it's worth. And that's what we're living with right now. And my business is so tense. People are so, they're on the edge.
Sure.
People are on the edge. They don't want to come to me. They want a new car.
Right.
But they can't go buy a new car, so they got to come to me. When I get them, they're already in a snit. They're already in a bad mood. There's nothing I can do about it. I talk to them I just tell them like it is. I can't, there's no sugarcoating anything anymore. You got to be direct. It's terrible, but you got to do it. And people, I understand that they're afraid to go buy a car.
Right.
They're actually afraid of buying a car, and I don't blame them. I absolutely don't blame them. When you hear things like the dealers made their best year ever in 21 when there was no chips,
right,
you got to know there's something up.
Well, but I mean, put that in the bigger perspective. You come off of COVID. A lot of people were laid off. These different things. Maybe they're behind on the bills. Credit scores are down. You have all these things up against you, and now on the back end,
I got to have a car.
Now you need a new car.
Now my car is junk. My frame is rotten. They can't fix it.
Right.
So now what do? Well, you do what you got to do. You have to go out. You got to find a car somewhere.
Right.
Maybe you got a relative down south whose aunt just passed away and has got a car in a garage for 3 years. You know
maybe you start going through obituaries. Say,
God,
we need. You don't want that car? Can I get that car?
Be a lawyer, an ambulance chasing lawyer.
You just hang out at the funeral home saying, "Can I buy your car?
Can I buy a car from you?"
Yeah.
No, we're going to give it to his grandson. Junior is going to get that car. I'm telling you, it's a dilemma, and it's the worst I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It is the worst I've ever seen. People cannot come in and say, "Hey, look at the good deal I got on this car," because they know they didn't.
Well, even like you talk about, relative giving you a car or something. In a market like this, nobody's going to give you a good, people know they're going to get top dollar for a used car. They're not going to give it away to somebody.
Oh, no. Yeah, you're right. I had a lady call me the other day. She's been a customer of mine for 40 years. She can't drive anymore. They told her 3 days ago that she can't drive anymore. She had an old Suburban, a 93 Chevy Suburban, but it didn't have 100,000 miles on it yet.
Yeah.
And I told one of the guys at work, he called a friend. It was $1,500. It was gone that day.
Wow. She probably could have gotten double that.
Oh, she could have if she wanted to part around with it. But there's just no way.
Right.
But still, it's people need transportation. This person that was a friend of one of my techs, he didn't have a car because his blew up.
Yeah.
And he's been walking to work. Well, now he can drive. It's just we're in a tizzy. We're in a big time tizzy.
We have any more good news for the listeners today?
Well, I'm pretty ugly on China right now. They have a company called Next Tier Automotive, and now here's a company from China in our town or our country. They're going to get $25.5 million in COVID-19 relief funding and $2.3 million in tax breaks to keep 1,100 jobs near Saginaw, Michigan. Keep these guys working and keep their plant open. They better keep that plant open. The funds were approved Tuesday by the Michigan Economic Development Committee. The incentives are intended to sway the Auburn Hills-based auto supplier to invest up to $312 million over the next 10 years to prepare its plant for electric vehicle production while maintaining its gas engine business. Next Tier, formerly a part of Delphi Corp., which was an American corp, but not anymore, was acquired in 2010 by Pacific Century Motors, a venture controlled by the city of Beijing and the Chinese aerospace giant. The company's board is predominantly Chinese. So we just gave them $25.5 million, just because we want to. The Community Development Block Grant Coronavirus Aid, Relief and Economic Security Funds would help retain at least 1,100 jobs and drive the economy up $51 million in investments through June of 2024. I find that hard to believe, and I just got to say, I'm not in favor of giving other companies from other countries our COVID relief funds. I'm not in favor of that.
Well, but again, in the same scenario we talked about before, is that in a lot of places, they look at these jobs, they look at these manufacturing jobs as gold.
Oh,
and they're willing to spend I mean, we've seen this over and over again. Like Boeing received one of the biggest incentives ever to build their factory.
Bailout of the year.
Yeah. So, I mean, we know, and the big three all got bailouts, and it's just kind of a cycle again that there's a lot of money being spent to keep those jobs where they are.
We have a good time here talking about cars, and we kind of try to keep it real. And what I'm telling you is really not an opinion. Most of the time when I've got it here, it's real. And it's this whole thing with, like, this guy from Toyota, the CEO, no less than an old CEO of an old car company, a very successful car company, I might add. They were number one in sales up until this year. For how long? And they just got taken over by GM this year, first time in ages. So Toyota pretty much knows what they're doing. And he's saying, it's not going to work. It's not going to work.
Well,
and I just can't.
So that becomes this question, though. Again, that becomes his challenge is now you've got, so we talked about New York and California. Now we've got also Europe. So in a place like Europe, is it more feasible in Europe than it is here? And, again, in Europe, you're not driving the long distances that we do.
Yeah, the distance is not there.
So he's got a big challenge on his hands. He's got markets where electric might work. He's got markets where people maybe don't want electric. Like here in the Midwest, we're going to be, you've seen some of the discussions about guys that need to use trucks for towing and things like that.
Oh, absolutely.
And then you've got the other countries that barely have electricity as it is. Their grids can barely stay on all day long anyway.
What about your car? You're driving somewhere and all of a sudden it starts to rain, so on go the wipers. Well, the wipers go on, so do the headlights. That's a state law in most states.
Right.
And here, now's my battery going.
Just turn the air conditioner off.
Yeah, and turn the air conditioners on. My God, you're not going to get halfway to where you're going. And the other thing is, we had this discussion Monday at my shop. Either in the morning at coffee or at lunchtime. I have some old guys that come around. We talk cars and stuff, and it's kind of fun. And we don't yell at each other. We don't swear. We keep it.
Well, it's
civil.
not that much fun then.
We keep it civil.
Okay.
But we were discussing this, and I said, now listen, where in the world? Just say my town of Lansing, 29, 30,000 people. Where are 30,000 people? What is it? Okay, say it's 17,000 households. 17,000 households. And each household's got to have at least one car. And if Pritzker follows Newsom, the other kumquat over here in Illinois, if he follows him and says we're going to go all electric, where is Lansing going to put 17,000 chargers? Plus, we have the post office in Lansing. And they have 30 vehicles, and they're going to be all electric. They've decided they're going to go. They're going to go.
They
mostly.
have to. The Biden administration has put together the deal with Oshkosh.
Yep.
Because they write the most checks to congressmen, but we don't talk about that.
Yes, they do.
So Oshkosh will be building them a lot of new.
And the president should have had nothing to do about it. The United Postal Service was supposed to be. The United States Postal Service should be in charge of their own destiny. But they're not. They were told what they had to do.
Right.
But anyway, here's the deal. We're talking 17,000 chargers for the people of Lansing that have, and that's if you only have one car in a household. That could be very easily be 34,000 chargers.
Right.
And what about the chargers uptown? When people come to shop, they have to plug into a fast charge, go in and shop. They're going to be chargers uptown. There's going to be absolute chaos when somebody runs up to plug in when they, and the other guy parks their,
right.
They're going to be running with their cords in their hand to plug their car in.
The extension cords running across the street.
You'll have extension cords running across the street. But the conversation that we had was this. We hear every day, and I report it here every week. So-and-so put $3 billion into this plant to do batteries, and this company put $3 billion in to tool it up for electric cars, the future, and the big push is on, and everybody's going to make electric cars. Nobody has said one word about the infrastructure. Nobody said a word. I read the paper cover to cover, and I don't see any articles dealing with How are we going to charge these vehicles? It's all good and well to have a zero emissions vehicle, which is fine. I believe in it. I would like to see our planet. I don't know if the damage is done to our planet and it's too late now or not. But you want to know what China did when they saw the electric vehicle craze taking over their country? They built a dozen new coal-fired electric plants, which are the scourge of our ozone. This is what we're fighting. This is what we're going against. We're trying to get the air cleaned up. And they made it dirtier so they could have all electric cars because they don't care. We're the only country that care. I think Britain cares. France doesn't care enough to spend a dime, but they care probably. But anyway, we're the country that puts out the big bucks and the big stuff and tries to get the clean air and tries to make it all happen. And I firmly believe in that. We need to have zero emission vehicles. But after all this time to say that you're going to completely wipe the slate clean and start over by 2030, that's 7 years away. You got 7 years to build 3 million chargers and put them everywhere. They're going to be eyesores. They're going to be everywhere you see a car. Every street, every place there's parking spaces, there's going to be charging station. It's going to be like the ATMs. Guys are going to buy a whole lot down the side of a street and put charging stations in there for people that park to go to work at, wherever. And they're going to own those and they're going to make money off of them. They're going to buy the electricity from probably the government by then, because they will have taken over that, and they're going to buy the electricity and sell it to the consumer. So it's going to get bumped twice. It's going to be expensive. The last article I read, and I read it to these guys. Listen here. The electric car companies have been running their tests along with internal combustion. And our new internal combustion engines, like the one in my car and the one in the newer cars, is just about almost, well, it's not completely zero emissions, but it's pretty close. But it's so efficient in fuel that per kilowatt hour, per miles per hour, miles per electricity, and miles per gas is very close to being the same.
Well, now they're saying that the cost to charge has reached that of filling the tank, which was one of the main draws. Was it was half the price.
It was.
Was.
That's like the cars were half the price they are now.
Right.
Was.